So the good thing is the framers tried to protect our privacy and liberty in the Constitution, in that provision. But it's easy to put words in a document. It's another thing to enforce that ideal in the real world.
Sometimes this is what happened. And a small child is asked to open the door and give them the permission to cross the threshold to search the property, apprehending any undocumented person who is at the site at that time. In other occasions, adults are threatened with harsh consequences if they fall firm to their constitutional rights and resist opening the door.
My organization holds town hall meetings. We had a panel once of a group of men who had been incarcerated. And we invited all the law enforcement chiefs in Sussex County. Actually, they were the panel. And I was surprised what showed up in the audience were men who had since transferred out of prison. And one of them asked an interesting question, because we always open up discussions. And he said to the police chief in Georgetown, he said, "I understand why you had to arrest me, but why'd you have to knock down my mother and break the door?" And the police chief, of course, apologized on the spot. So I was very happy about that, so we wouldn't have a riot during my town hall meeting. But, and he explained that was wrong. They shouldn't have broken down the door. They shouldn't have knocked down his little frail 70-year-old mother just to get to him.
You know, even the police, there was somebody accused of a terrible thing. Yeah. So he needed to be apprehended. Okay, but why do they have to get into the house at 3 a.m. when all the children will never forget how their father was taken? Why?
So if we look at arrest rates on school property in red clay for middle school students, 100% of all arrests that were made of females were of Black and brown girls. Look at the high school data for red clay. We found that Black and brown students accounted for 77.5% of all arrests. And we found that at that same high school level, special education students accounted for 60% of all arrests. Then when we look at students who are labeled as having special ed status and they're Black and brown, those numbers are exceptionally high, right? So when we factor in all of this demographic data, we see that students aren't being treated equally and fairly under the law. And the primary reason for that is because of implicit bias, right? We know that when Black young people and brown young people are evaluated, they're evaluated through a different lens than white children are. And we know that law enforcement in red clay was all white male in that same school year, right? Or right now. So we know that there's an implicit bias there. So we're not even in the context of talking about whether, you know, Constable Bob is a good cop or a bad cop. It doesn't have anything to do with individual personalities. It has to do with a system that sucks in certain groups of people and then spits them out.
I mean, just 2 years ago, I was stopped on the highway on Route 1 by a young state policeman who wanted to know, if you can believe it or not, as he leaned in the car, I need to know where you are going and what's your purpose in going there.
We heard the screams of the children that were separated from their parents. And I'll never forget, this little one is saying, "No, papi, no, papi." In other words, where is my daddy? Because I don't see my daddy. Where is my daddy? It's a tiny little thing. And what is their response? Oh, okay, you know, when are you gonna be quiet? You are making too much noise. And that is trauma that will keep that little one forever stuck into that memory. So I don't think that that our communities are being protected. And I'm just talking about the Latino communities. They don't have to be undocumented. The African American people are being targeted the same way.
Because it is a democracy, which means opportunity, which means safety, which means protection. And all of a sudden I wake up at my current age and think, oh my God, you're not very safe. Forget about the fact that you're an old lady, you're Black. That's the number one threat to your survival, regardless of your age.
If systems don't produce equitable outcomes, they need to be changed, and they need to be changed at the policy level and in terms of law. And I really don't think there should be a lot of conversation about it. If the outcome is disproportionate in terms of race, change it.
It comes back to the community insisting that police departments hire good people, they train them well, they hold the police officers accountable, and that means that the citizens have to educate themselves about what's going on, make absolutely sure they vote in each and every election for public officials on every level, because it's not the president, it's people at the local level who are making a lot of these decisions. And they make sure we get people into office who want to make sure our police departments are acting responsibly and respond when police officers are acting inappropriately. So the Constitution is a starting point, but the words of the document are not enough to ensure that it's going to be applied the way it should. We all have to work to make sure that our Fourth Amendment rights are being protected. It is a collective societal effort.